start? Like, where do I start? Where do I end? What do I do in the middle? Like, how, if I get something on the contract, like what's the best way to market it and put it on the market? Where do I find buyers? You know, where do I find financing if you indeed need financing? But lease options or options with a lease and wholesaling are strategies that technically don't need any financing at all, especially to implement these strategies. So like traditional financing is what I mean, like bank financing, going to a bank and borrowing money and getting a mortgage and all of that cool stuff. So you can do that. That certainly is a strategy for controlling real estate, buying and controlling real estate. But what I love most about options as well as wholesaling is that you get to control the real estate, make money from the real estate without actually having to own it, like technically close on it and own it yourself. So those are the two options that I personally like. There are many, many more strategies that I love as well and do in my business. But tonight we're doing a Q&A on wholesaling and lease options. Fair enough. So I'll be answering questions about that. And if anyone, you know, wants to know something, just drop a comment, anything, right? Anything you want to ask me is fair game, right? And about lease options and wholesaling, don't ask me nothing crazy. Because then I got to answer you crazy. Okay. All right. No, but seriously, drop a comment in the comment box there. I'll see it and I will address it and answer it for you directly right here live. Fair enough. So I'm just going to wait a couple of seconds to see if some other people will join in the fun and want to contribute to this live. Let me see if I can invite some friends here. Let's invite Sherry. Let's invite all these fabulous people. Let's see who is available. Kia, you already own, so I don't need to invite you. I don't know why Facebook giving me the option to invite you. That's crazy, but it does do that. Let's see who else is available here. Let's get some fabulous friends on the line. Oh, and by the way, don't be bashful about sharing as well too. If you want to tag some of your friends or people in your circle who you think would be a great addition to this live, and maybe you know that they have interest in real estate investing but don't really have a person to ask, then tag them. Tag them and say, hey, you want your questions answered. Jackie's on the line, so hey. But I got my first one. Look at this. Hey, Crystal, how you doing? Congratulations on your beautiful baby girl, Crystal. I've been following you. So Crystal is asking, and hopefully everyone else can see her comment as well too if you're watching. She has asked, what is the best way to get started with wholesaling lease options, and what should you be looking for? Well, let's start with what is a lease option in the first place. Most people are familiar with the term rent to own, right? You see the signs everywhere. People are, marketing properties in that way. And buyers have the opportunity to like lease a house for a specific period of time. But in addition to that, they have the option agreement in place with the owner or the seller to actually buy it sometime in the future. So up front, what they do with that option agreement is they negotiate the price as well as the terms, like how long the option is going to be. And usually that term is the same as the lease, if you will, the leasing period. And then they also negotiate the closing date, the terms, as well as the sales price, right? So that's what kind of goes into the option, as well as the option fee, like how much money that person is going to put towards their option to purchase, to have the right to purchase sometime in the future while they, after they rent the place, and then they have the option to purchase it at that time. Normally the option fee is non-refundable. Most people, that's what they do. So if you don't purchase, then you don't get your option fee back. Fair enough. So that's how that works. So the best way to get started in wholesale lease options, I would probably say is to start with pretty houses. All right. And what I mean by pretty houses, so you have, for most investors, they have like a pretty house strategy, and then you have like an ugly house strategy. So to be honest with you, like wholesaling is like an ugly house strategy, right? So that's usually the difference. Options are usually like a pretty house strategy, because the way how you're going to use that property is to get somebody to move into it like right away. So it has to be like livable or rent ready or very appealing and like modern and clean and safe, because there's going to be a family that's going to move into it like in a short period of time, right? So if it's a property that needs to be like renovated or gutted or remodeled or something like that, that's a buy, fix, and sell strategy. So that's not like a lease option. Fair enough. So the way how you would get started in wholesale and lease options, I would probably contact for rent ads, right, on the classifieds. That's the most easiest way, because those owners already are accustomed to renting their properties anyway. So you would be calling them and asking them if they would be interested in the option to buy in addition to renting their place, right? Because they're interested in cash flow. So that's one strategy that you can do. Another one would be to convert landlords, like landlords that are tired. All right. So just because somebody is renting doesn't mean that they want to continue to rent their property. They may be renting their property by like default. All right. And what I mean by that is you have individuals, owners that have multiple properties, or they were placed in a multiple properties situation that they didn't plan for. So I call those landlords by default. So those are people who had to move in a quick, fast, and a hurry. Right? They may have gotten a job offer someplace else, or they had to move, or, a family member, they need to go closer to a family member to take care of a loved one. And now they're faced with the dilemma of actually having like 2 mortgage payments simultaneously, and their finances does not support them having multiple payments like that. So they have a very high probability and a high motivation with a need to sell, right? So you would want to start with owners of properties that need to sell. So you have owners that want to sell, right? And they could afford to wait around a little bit and negotiate and all that cool stuff. But you also want to look for the highest probability of you having a success. So you want to speak to people only that have a need to sell, right? A very, very high motivation. That means that they've had some kind of like life-changing event that's causing them to need to sell their house, right? So who would fall into that category? Someone who just had a child and their house is too small, right? And they need a bigger home. They need to sell. They are like they have some discomfort with that house. Like I said, people who just got a job and they got to relocate really, really fast need to sell, right? That's another one. A couple that just got divorced, right? And it took 2 of their incomes to actually support this property, but now there's only 1 income in the house. They need to sell, right? Someone who has filed bankruptcy and they need to find some way to reorganize their finances, they need to sell. So you need to talk to people who needs to sell. And I prefer to talk to people maybe like expired listings, like people who were trying to sell their house and they couldn't sell their house for some reason. I don't know. People can't sell their houses for only 3 things. So the first one would be it's overpriced. All right. That's normally what it is. It's overpriced. Number 2 would be like the condition of the property, right? It's not in, the conditions. There's something going on with it that's just not right. People, like buyers, are just not attracted to it. And then the third would be that the location. Maybe it's not in a good school district or, something like that. It's not near the mall. I know buyers are really peculiar these days in their requirements and things that they're looking for, but it's normally price, condition, or location, right? So when you have a expired listing, then normally that's one of the 3 reasons why it didn't sell. But when they are expired, sometimes you'll find that owners become more motivated because their property didn't sell. They tried to sell it the traditional way with a realtor or a real estate sales agent. They put it on the market and it didn't even sell. It didn't. So those are really, really good ones. I would also call on listings that have been on the market for like 4 or 5 months. Most times, real estate listings on the MLS in the traditional way, the contractual agreement usually is like 6 months long. So if the property hasn't sold in like 5 months, guess what that owner is? They're like upset. They're like upset, right? Like they've been paying mortgages, during that 6 months. They've been maintaining that property during that 6 months. They've been paying property taxes, insurance. They've been doing all of that while their house is on the market to sell. So what do you think their motivation is, after 4 or 5 months with their house being on the market for sale and it's not selling? Their motivation goes way, way up out the roof. So I would start with those types of leads as well too. And then Crystal's last question was, what should you be looking for? I would probably say pretty houses, Crystal. So nice houses in nice neighborhoods do really, really well with the lease option strategy. All right, let's see what else somebody else got. All right, so Miss Beautiful Kindy says, how can I advise my clients into getting started with wholesaling? All right, well, I don't know who your clients are, but wholesaling is a great strategy for anyone that is looking to start in real estate and don't really have the money to like buy real estate and fix and sell. They don't want to utilize their credit in any way or borrow any money or do anything like that. So the wholesaling strategy, what that actually is when an individual contracts with a property owner, okay? And then what they do is they assign their interest in that contract to someone else, like another end buyer. So the paperwork that is signed between the investor and the property owner is assignable, all right? And then the third person, the person who they assign it to for a fee, that's the person who comes and brings the money to the transaction and actually closes on the transaction. So they bring not only the amount of money needed to like buy and close on the property, but they also bring the additional amount for the assignment too, okay? So I would explain the benefits, Kindy, to your clients and like, hey, this is a really cool strategy for you to get in and get started with, and just let them know like the pros and cons of it, right? So wholesaling, although it's a very easy strategy to begin and you don't really need a lot of tools, it does take a lot of effort. It takes a lot of effort because the whole gist of wholesaling is that you're offering the owner cash. And if you're offering the owner cash, it has to be a really, really aggressive cash offer. So it's usually a very, very low offer. And what I find with wholesalers is that their closing ratio, like their conversion ratio, and if they actually close on those deals are not that high. They have to speak to like a lot of people. They got to offend a lot of people, a lot of owners to get someone that has a high enough motivation that's going to accept 50 cents on the dollar for their property, or, up to 60% on the dollar for their property, right? Because the wholesaling strategy, what that is you're usually like assigning your contract to another investor. So that end buyer who's bringing the cash to the table, to closing, to fund the transaction is normally like another investor. And that investor, their exit strategy, what they're planning to do with the property normally is like to fix it up, add some additional value to it. And then they're either going to put it on the market again for a retail buyer, like a traditional family who's going to come and buy it from them after they've renovated it. Or maybe they're just going to do like a light renovation, like for rental purposes, and then they are going to rent that property themselves. So you have to leave, wholesalers have to leave a lot of the profits and the equity in that deal for the end buyer. So they really only get like a small percentage. Normally wholesalers are making anywhere from like 3,000, 5,000. Sometimes they can get away with like 10, 25,000 maybe on a deal. And that's like on the high end and stretching it. But most wholesalers would probably be making somewhere on the lines about $5,000 to $7,000, $10,000 max on an assignment of their contract, right? So what does that look like? There's a property that's worth, I don't know, $165,000, like, all fixed up, right? So what that wholesaler would do is they would, based on their market, they'd probably do a percentage of that after repair value, which is the value the property would be worth after it's all fixed up and stuff. So more than likely, sometimes it's like anywhere from 65% to 80%, depending on the market. Some markets are really more aggressive than others. And you find like for example, like Vegas, right? You know, that's a really aggressive market, and you know, it demands like higher pricing and stuff like that. So, but for a lot of the other markets, like 65% to 70% is pretty like normal, right? So you would multiply that percentage by that after repair value, and you'll get another number. And then what you'll do with that number is that you'll minus all of the repairs out of it, okay? And then you're gonna also back out your fee too. So I mean, on a $165,000 house, contingent upon or based upon like how much repairs got to be done on that property, it could be somewhere like your offer is like $70,000 or $80,000. You're like, what? You know? So that's what I mean by saying it's pretty aggressive strategy, because your cash offer is going to be the least amount that you like can negotiate with that seller. So you got to find a seller that's really motivated, that wants to or will accept a cash offer of, you know, $75,000 for a house that's worth $165,000. That's what wholesaling really is. So you're leaving a lot of the equity in there for your end buyer, because they're the ones that's essentially taking all the risk of renovating the property and bringing up the value to the 165. All right, and you're welcome, Miss Crystal. What's up, sugar? All right, so Crystal also asked another question. She said, how do you make your money from lease options? I'm wondering, did I miss that? Oh, okay. So how you make your money from lease options. So options is a really, really great tool and a great strategy to use. So there's multiple different ways that you can make money with options, right? So even with lease options, like rent to own, which is what most people like know it, in the like formal terms, that's actually called a sandwich lease option, right? So what does that really mean? That means you have, oh, I need something. I need a demonstration. I'm like, demonstration. I'm looking for anything that, okay, here we go. All right. So I have my my tape, my tape dispenser, and I have my my stapler. Oh, and I need one more. And then I have my like my my Post-it dispenser. Can you tell I'm a girly girl? I mean, all the time. Even my office accessories are feminine. I guess so. All right, so let's get started. All right, so how do we make money from a lease option? All right, here we go. So my stapler is going to be the seller. Here we go, seller. Here you go. She's cute, right? Hey. All right, and then where my Post-it dispenser is going to be the investor, right? All right. So, and I chose the Post-it because you could take notes, and that's what the investor does, is they do all the paperwork. So it made sense. Okay. And then the tape dispenser is going to be the buyer, right? They bring everything together, right? So hence the tape. They tape everything together. All right, cool. So what the investor and the owner do is they're the ones that's going to negotiate like the terms as well as the price. So the investor here is going to say, hey, Mr. Seller, you want to sell your house for $240,000. I don't know. I just picked that number out of my head. I don't know. Why not? $240,000, right? That's normally like the retail price for the property. It only makes sense. So this is a seller that wants full price, right? So it's very different from wholesaling, because wholesaling would be a seller owner that's willing to accept a great discount, right? So this lease option buyer seller here is they just want market value for their property or close to it. And the wholesaling option just will not work. They're looking you crazy like side eye, like, really? You want to give me how much for my house? I don't think so. All right. So here we have this owner right here. And then this guy, which is the investor, is going to negotiate with them. And normally they would give them close to that market value or just a little percentage below it. But then the investor, what they're going to do is they're going to take their option agreement and they're going to assign it to a buyer right here. That's what they're going to do. So my terms with the owner would be longer than, or the time that I have in my option agreement with the owner is going to be much longer than my terms with the buyer. All right. So this guy, maybe, I don't know, maybe we do a 36-month option just for, you know, for easy math, 36 months. And then with the potential buyer or the optionee that you're going to assign your option interest to, they would have an option agreement for 24 months, for 2 years. So your expectation for them is that they are going to execute their option either on or before 24 months, right? So they can buy early. They can buy early, or you can make a penalty for them to buy early. I don't know, but they can buy early. But when they do buy, this is when this guy gets paid off, right? So when you have your option agreement with the buyer, you would have an upsell, right? You would have an upsell. So you negotiated $240,000 with your original, with the original owner of that property, and then you actually would do an option agreement with the buyer for maybe 250, you know, 265, sometime in the future, contingent upon the appreciation rate that you would have researched for that neighborhood, that zip code. You expect the house value to go up to a certain percentage, something like that. But in the interim of that, what you also will get paid by is the option fee that the buyer is going to bring, right? The option, the leasing option buyer. You know, some people call it all kinds of, they don't like calling buyers because they actually are not really buyers at that time. So don't get tripped up with like the lingo and stuff like that. So it really is like you're assigning your option interest to a potential new buyer, but they're not actually buying the property at the time. What they're actually paying for in their option agreement is the option to buy at a specific price sometime in the future. At sometime, you know, you're setting up the terms, right? So that's pretty much what it is. And another way that the investor would also be compensated is through the cash flow, which is what I love, right? So that's what my training is all about, is Cash Flow Your Life Real Estate Investor Training. Making money multiple different ways off of the same deal, right? So you have 3 different things going on at the same time when you have a sandwich lease option, which is the all parties still in the deal moving congruently together. So the first pop of cash that the investor is going to get is the option fee, right? That's kind of like self-explanatory. Why? Because that potential buyer that's going to pay you the option fee for that particular house, they're just going to pay that up front. It's non-refundable, so you're going to get that. That goes to Bank of You, all right? That goes in your bank account. Now, the next part, the next income stream would be the cash flow from the rents, right? So the owner says, I want $1,000 a month. Easy math, fair enough, right? They want $1,000 a month. That was part of your original agreement with the owner in your option with them, that you're going to give them $1,000 a month. So what you do with your assigned interest to a potential buyer is you charge $1,500 a month. So now you have a cash flow of like $500 every single month. You take the $500 and you send $1,000 to the owner, and that difference, that $500 is yours, right? So if your option fee was, you know, $10,000 up front, and then now you have $500 cash flow per month for, you know, 12 months, That's an additional what? I don't do math well, even as an investor. What, at $6,000? $16,000 right there. And then you also have your actual sales price, right? So when this buyer exercises their option to buy, remember you said that you were going to give this guy, the owner, $240,000, but you signed an option agreement with this guy, the potential buyer, and I don't know, you charged them $265,000, right? So that's an additional $25,000. So your total in that deal, if they did buy in 1 year, right? But if they bought in year 2, you still collecting those rents. Plus, you also have the opportunity to increase rents, because that's what happens, after 1 year, rents are renegotiated for a new price or something like that, a new monthly amount. But say it did stay the same, that would be $10,000 for the option fee, $6,000 per year for the cash flow for the rent. So that's what year 1 is $6,000, year 2 is an additional $6,000. That's 12. So 12 plus 10 is 22. And then your cash out when that tenant buyer actually closes on that deal is an additional 25. So 22 plus 25,000 would be what, 47,000 that you got from that deal. I don't know, pretty darn good. That's somebody's salary for a whole year. For just a couple hours of work, I suppose. So that's pretty much what I like. So that's hopefully that answers your question. A pretty long answer, but that's pretty dope. I wanted to make sure that you understood. Hey, Nana, I'm going to give some people a shout out because a lot of people just joined. So I got Adam on the line. Jesus is on the line. What's up, you? How you doing, Jesus? You got Mark is on the line. Boo Man's on the line. Boo Man told me to stop dancing the other day. Matter of fact, he said, sit down. Oh, I remember that. I'm taking notes, Boo Man. We got Adam and Samaya is on the line. I hope I pronounced her name. She has a beautiful name. And then Nana, Joy, Orlando's on the line. Kendi's still here. James is here. Rashonda's here. Rose is here. Jay is here. Mike is here. Labrita is here. Debbie's here. Ooh, what's up, Rashonda? It looks like it's Rihanna, but it's not. It's like Rhiannon. It's Rhiannon. How about that? Constant is here. Janice is here. Frank is here. What's up, everybody? Thank you so much for joining. All right, so I have a next question from Kia. What's up, Kia? How you doing, beautiful? The beautiful and most talented Kia is also parenting hacks. She has a new book out, and she has a fabulous childcare summer camp center up in the Seminole County area of Florida. She's doing really big things. So she's a fabulous lady. Thank you for joining, Kia. All right. So number one, her question is, how did you get involved and learn about all this? All right. Okay. All right. That's actually a really great question. Thank you for asking it, Kia. All right. So the way how I got involved in real estate is because my first real estate flip, which was in 2006, that's my first deal that I bought, went terribly, terribly wrong. That's really how it all started. I borrowed money, meaning that I actually went to a bank and I did the traditional way. I had a down payment, I had the whole thing going on, and I thought I was just like a genius, right? Because that's what everybody else was doing. And during that period of time, there were a lot of investors, or, I'll probably say wannabe investors, because you only know like a couple of strategies, right? So if you're not successful, then you don't know enough. So, and that's what happened to me. I wasn't successful and I did not know enough. So I borrowed money to get this property that was a new construction. I put a down payment down, a substantial amount of down payment, and the market changed. Now, markets change all the time. Markets fluctuate, prices, home prices go up and down, stock market goes up and down, stuff happens. It doesn't matter, right? Fair enough. That's just what it is. Markets do change. And from market to market, each market can even have its own cycle at that particular time. But here in Central Florida at that time, it was going haywire. And there was the housing bubble. and a lot of people lost money, including myself. So the property that I purchased was depreciating, right? So I bought it for this amount of money and I was trying to sell it for this amount of money and make a profit, and that did not happen. I just saw the equity or whatever I thought was appreciation at that time just going down. It was like this. I was just watching it. I was like, OMG, 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 OMG. So it depreciated to about like, I would probably say like about 40% of like what I bought it for. So that was, I mean, a huge loss. Huge loss. And plus I still had that loan, right? So that bank was like, tough. Too bad, sister. You still owe us this money. So I actually had to negotiate a short sale. So that was the first short sale I ever had. And I vowed, I was like, man, this is tough, right? So I lost, you know, like a little bit over $100,000 based on like the depreciation, as well as the mortgage payments that I was making to that financial at the time, because I mean, I'm one to stay true to my commitment. So even though the property was like depreciating and I was losing value, there were a lot of people that were walking away from their properties and they were like, forget it, right? I'm not going to keep paying for something that's like not worth what I'm paying for. But I decided that I was going to keep on paying. So I continued to pay my mortgage for like 2 years holding that property, because it really did take that long to like negotiate it, right? I didn't want to have like bad credit. I didn't want to have any missed payments. I didn't want to like miss out on my obligations. That was like really important to me. And finally, I had to come to grips with the fact like this is like I'm pouring money like into a black hole, and I had to let it go. And I had to I actually did default on this mortgage because I needed to negotiate. So guess what, guys? Banks don't negotiate with you if you're paying them. They have no incentive to do that. Just FYI. So, you know, I did a strategic default, you know, that's a whole nother story, and negotiated a short sale with them. But what I learned from that process is that I realized that there were other people that were making money in real estate. So I figured, hey, they know something that I don't know. So I went on a quest. I had a really, really expensive PhD in how to lose money in real estate. And I was like, man, I need to learn different ways to make money in real estate, because this wasn't working out for me. So I did not want to do that strategy again, which was basically putting my personal credit and my personal finances, my family's savings, my family's money. I didn't want to do any of those things and put any of that at risk ever again. Okay. So I started reading about how to buy houses with properties with no cash and no credit. And I was like, oh, this exists? What? What are you talking about? Nobody told me. You know, I would have done this if I knew about it. Anyway, but that's really what it was. So there's a lot of books and tutorials out there. If you guys are interested in options or interested in wholesaling, just Google it. It's out there. I'm not hiding anything. It's not like I'm one of those people that's going to be like, oh, I don't want you to know what I know unless you pay me or whatever. You know, just Google it. It's there. You can watch like a YouTube video, you know. But the challenge I find with what people are telling me is not a lack of information. It's like the how to put it together. So that's when you align yourself with somebody else that's actually like successful in doing it, so they can kind of like shortcut your learning curve to make sure that you have like the best success possible. And that's where like a mentor and a coach would come in, right? That only makes sense. That's the reason why people go to college, ain't it? Right? To go learn something from somebody else. I'm like, well, I don't understand why sometimes that people have a hard time, you know, getting a coach or something like that. I'm like, but you paid like 50, 40, 60, 70, 80 grand on your college degree and it didn't give you money. But here's somebody who's going to teach you how to make money, but you got a problem like paying them. You paid the professor and they didn't even help you find a job. Anyway, it's just the truth about the game. So Kia has a second question as well. How should one prepare to get into this type of real estate investing? Well, the first thing you want to do is educate yourself, right? You want to educate yourself and see what all of the different techniques are out there and decide which one you want to implement and which one you really want to do. And the way how you decide which one you really want to do as far as real estate investing, you must have a clear understanding and a clear idea of what you want for your life. Because real estate investing, just like anything else, people who have like a hard time real estate investing is because like they jumped into it without really having a plan or like a goal, and they really didn't have like an expected outcome. Like for me, when I decided that I was going to be a full-time investor, what was important to me was like lifestyle. So I decided to design the lifestyle that I wanted first. And then I says, okay, well, which one of these strategies can give me the lifestyle that I'm looking for? So the lifestyle that I wanted was like cash flow. I wanted cash to come in to my account, whether I was like out, you know, flipping houses or anything like that. Like I just wanted like a low stress life. And lease options will do that for you because, as I explained earlier, you get pops of cash up front, right, for your option assignment. And then you can also choose to stay in the middle, which is called a sandwich lease option, and actually experience positive cash flow with the property as you increase the market rent to your assigned optionee, right? And then you can look forward to a bigger pop of cash sometime in the future, and when they are buying the property for real, when they actually buying it for real. So one of the ways that I increase the probability of success of my option assignment is I make sure that I align them with like a credit restoration person, you know, somebody who can help them fix their credit, or if they even need that at all. A lot of people think that they cannot buy or they won't qualify. And, you know, when I partner them up with like a mortgage broker or someone who can take a look at their credit, they're like, dude, you're like 30 days away. All I need is your pay stubs. All I need, you know, whatever those requirements are. And they're like, oh my God, I didn't know that I can qualify for a mortgage. And you're like, yeah, you can qualify. You know, people are like afraid to be declined, right? So that's usually what I think stops a lot of people from applying, is they just don't want to know. They don't want anybody to tell them no. But it's a good idea to apply anyway, because you want to know how close you are, or, you know, how far you are, and then put a plan together that's going to help you get closer to your goal of home ownership, right? But lease options gives a family the option to, or the wonderful benefit, I should say rather, to live in a property, live in a home, love on that home, take care of the home as if it's their own, experience home ownership and all the joys and woes that comes with it, and then buy the property that they were already living in and loving in anyway, right? So that's pretty dope. It gives them just more time for them to get their finances together. So that's what I would do. So how should one prepare to get into this type of real estate investing? I would probably say have a goal in mind of what you want, and then align yourself with a type of strategy, real estate strategy that fits your lifestyle, the amount of time you have available. Kia, you already run another business, so I'm pretty sure you don't want another like obligation. I would say you just want the cash flow, girl. I know you already. All right. So, you know, in real estate in itself, if you don't, you could be like chasing like the 8 ball, I would say. You know, you find yourself like you replaced your job with like another job because you really didn't have a plan in place to start. So make sure you have that up front. All right. And Rashonda says, makes sense. I'm glad I'm making sense of somebody. Amen. Rashonda also says, hey, and great knowledge. And thanks, girl. Yes, ma'am. And can't hear. Nana, you can't hear me. You can't hear me. Everybody else can hear me. Girl, turn your volume up. I don't know why you can't hear me, Nana. I'm so sorry. All right. And Sade. Hey, Sade. Do we need a real estate lawyer? Okay. So you need a real estate attorney? Not so much. You don't need a real estate attorney because it's not a requirement for you to have an attorney to do an option, right, agreement or something like that. So, but what I would recommend an attorney for is like in every state they have you have your own state laws, right, your state statutes. So you want to make sure that you're clear on your do's and your don'ts. For example, in Texas, right, in Texas, lease options, I think is the maximum term is like 6 months. That's something you should know. right? You out there writing 24-month, option agreements. You be like, that's not how this works in this state, right? So that's just a clear example of what you need to know. So you want to make sure that you have a clear understanding of what is the requirements for your states and your state's law. So if you have some paperwork that you would want like an attorney to review, like a template of an option agreement to make sure that it is acceptable, compatible with your state, that kind of thing, make sure you don't get yourself in trouble. That's what I would do. So if you're the real estate attorney reviewed like the template that you plan on using in your agreements and they give you a thumbs up, that's pretty much all you need. And then you don't necessarily need an attorney again, to facilitate your deal or pay an attorney for like, to do the administrative process of like structuring your deal and managing it for you. You can do that yourself. You don't need an attorney for that. However, I did shout out to one of my real estate attorneys that go-to people. His name is Charles Castellan from CPC Law. So what I use him for is part of like just like credibility, right? So I would actually have my option like tenant buyers, the optionee, like meet at an attorney's office and then just sign their lease there. I mean, you can sign the lease at the kitchen table. That's cool. You can do it anywhere. But I choose to do it in like in a professional environment because it adds like an additional element of like credibility to you as an investor. And it shows that you have the person's interest at heart, right? It shows you that you're pretty upstanding and professional individual. So I like doing that. Using their space, their conference room, and, they can shake hands, kiss babies, that kind of stuff. And I can introduce them to my attorney. I'm like trying to, everything, is like backwards when you're on camera. I'm like trying to find out which shoulder my strap is showing. Anyway, so that's what I would do. But initially, no, you don't need an attorney. But if you wanted one to review your agreement, your purchase and sales agreement to make sure it's compliant with your state, as well as your option agreement, I would highly recommend that because you need to know that anyway. And plus you also need to know your state laws. So make sure you Google your state statutes regarding real estate and just read the whole thing. Just read it. It don't hurt. Sit down one afternoon, one Saturday, you're not doing nothing. Instead of like watching reality TV, you read the laws for your state and educate yourself on your do's and don'ts because it will probably save you a lot of money or make you a lot of money in your business. So that's pretty cool. All right. Kia says, thanks for sharing. That's absolutely true. Yep. That's so true. Love that. Designing your lifestyle first. Yes, girl. I had to figure out how much money it was going to take me to live. I was like, okay, well, how much cash flow do I really need to live this Jackie Jackson lifestyle, And then I decided, okay, well, which one of these strategies is going to help me get to this faster? All right, so that's that. You're beautiful, sis. Thanks for the info. Oh, thank you, Nicola. I love you. Thank you so much. So I'm going through the questions in the chat again to see if there are any additional questions. I don't see any questions, any new questions, but I'll definitely be staying on the line to answer more questions. So wholesaling is like, normally reserved, a strategy reserved for a house that needs a lot of fixing up, right? Because the wholesaler will be selling normally or assigning their contract to another investor that expects to make a profit too, right? So in order for that investor to make a profit, the one that the wholesaler is selling it to, they have to leave like a lot of equity in that deal so that that end buyer can be attracted to the deal. Like, why would I buy if I'm going to be a cash buyer? I want a deep discount. So if a wholesaler comes to me and wants me to buy a property, it got to be priced right. The repairs also have to be calculated accurately. The after repair value also has to be estimated correctly as well too, in order for me to be interested in it. What I find most about wholesalers, especially new ones, they overinflate the after repair value. So they think that the property is worth more than it actually is. Like, they don't really know how to do like the research to find out what the estimated value of that property would be after it's all fixed up. And then the second thing that they do is also underestimate the repairs, right? So you have an overinflated value and underestimated repairs. That's a sure sign that you didn't do enough homework, right? So make sure that you're researching the correct value for the property and the way how to research. So a lot of people ask me, well, Jackie, how do I know, what a property could be worth sometime in the future? So that is actually called doing your due diligence, right? And then you're actually going to research houses that have sold, right? So historic information, historic data, have sold near the property that you're trying to wholesale, like within the last 60 to 90 days. Like you really don't want to go older than 6 months ago. All right. So the more recent, the better. And those are called comps. It's called comparable. So if I was a licensed agent and I was getting ready to list the property or to negotiate, work for an owner, right? And then list the property on the MLS and negotiate, and help them, come up with a price to put online and advertise. I'm going to provide them, it's called a CMA, composite, market analysis. I'm not a realtor, so don't quote me on that, but it's a CMA. That's what they do. So as an investor, I'm doing the same thing. They have a comparable market analysis. That's it. Comparable market analysis. All right, cool. So that's shout out to all my licensed agents for doing that. They do that for free, by the way. So if you were ever trying to get your house, you wanted to find out how much your property was worth, just call a realtor. They do it for free. You don't have to bear the expense of a full appraisal right away, unless you really, really want one. But you can call a licensed real estate sales agent and they'll do a CMA for you for free. They do that all day. Anyway, so because I am not a licensed sales agent, I'm just going to look online and look at the public records of all of the properties within a 1 mile radius of the property that I'm trying to wholesale. And then look at the date that these properties sold. Because remember, I told you 6 months or less. And the distance is a 1 mile radius. So it's really, really close. And I'm also going to look for square footage, how big the property is. So if the house that I'm trying to wholesale is 1,500 square feet, I'm going to be looking for houses that are 1,500 square feet. And if I can't find a house that's 1,500 square feet, I'm going to try to find a property that's really, really close to it. So for example, a property that may be 1,400 or 1,450 or, 14 something or 13, and then do some kind of plus or minus, for compensating factors. But what I'm not going to do is compare that property, that 1,500 square feet, to a 3,000 square feet house. That's not even the same type of house. You know what I'm saying? So that's what some people do. And then their values end up being inflated because they used the wrong type of property and they didn't compare apples to apples. They compared apples to pears or something like that. So the square footage of the property that you're comparing it to needs to be plus or minus 100 square feet, I would say. And then it also needs to have similar bedrooms and similar bathrooms and similar design. All right. And what I mean by design, I mean, if one property is 2 stories versus one property that's a 1 story, it's a pretty big difference. You want to find the properties that are your property that you're trying to compare. And then you will assess that information and kind of get a clear understanding of what properties have been selling for. And then you'll also take a look at the pictures of the properties that sold. So what you're looking for is the pictures of properties that have been recently renovated, the nice houses. You're oh, okay. So after this house was renovated, it sold for, X amount of dollars. So the probability of a house that's similar to it being sold for the same amount in the future or higher is pretty high, right? So that's really how you are going to calculate your ARV, which also stands for after repair value. So after repair value. Some people take the average of those comparable houses once they found 3 to 4 properties that are similar, or sometimes they do like average square foot, square feet, plural, potatoes, I guess. But they'll do like the average of the square foot to see what properties are selling for in that neighborhood. Is it $90 a square foot? Is $100 a square, 150, 125? And then they'll multiply the average per square foot by the total square feet of the property that they're trying to wholesale. And then they'll come up with an after repair value. That's a pretty genius way to do it too. And then, of course, you still got to do your other formula, which is called the maximum allowable offer formula, right? So that's where you take your after repair value once you've, come up with what that looks like or what that number is. And then you would subtract the repairs, the total cost of the repairs that you believe the property needs. And then you would also back out your assignment fee and like any, closing costs and stuff like that that you may incur. And that's how you come up with your maximum allowable offer to that owner, to that seller. And then it's, if you do the math, it's pretty aggressive number, So I always laugh and I tell my coaching students, like, if you're not embarrassed to make your cash offer to an owner, then, you offer too much. If you're not embarrassed to say the number, then you're offered too much. So do I get embarrassed every single time I make a cash offer? Yeah, I do, but that's just part of my, I don't deviate. The numbers don't lie. Like, you can't be like, oh, I'm going to make a higher offer because I just don't want to, I want to save face, with the owner, and I don't want to look, crazy. I don't want to give them a lowball offer. That's pretty much what people say. That's the term, right? I don't want to give them a lowball offer. It kind of feels yucky to me, Well, yeah, it may, but if that's wholesaling is your strategy, then that's just what it is. But what I tell a lot of wholesalers that they need to do, because their probability of closing deals sometimes is pretty low because their offers are so aggressive. They have to make a lot of offers. What I encourage them to do is to consider learning the option strategy as well, because then they don't have to like throw away deals anymore. They don't have to walk away from deals. They can offer another solution to that property owner and actually give that property owner what they need out of the deal, which is usually like a retail price or something like that. So you don't have to like walk away from your deals anymore. You can just typically say, okay, well, I have more than one solution that's available to you. I'll be happy to explain what each of those look like. My cash offer is always my most aggressive offer. Mr. Seller, my business is to put this property back on the market again. So my expectation is to make a profit, but I want to put cash in your pocket right now. And this is the amount of cash I can afford to give you, right? So, you have to have that conversation. At least I preface it that way. I let them know right up from the front that, my cash offer is going to be my most aggressive offer. And if that doesn't work for them, I have another strategy, a solution where I actually can pay them terms or, pay them their equity over time, or set up some kind of option where they can get their full price if they're willing to wait sometime in the future and experience the benefits of cash flow, which is basically the renting part. All right, so let's see what else is down here. Do you know anything about abandoned properties? Okay, yeah. I do a little bit, but what would you like to know about abandoned properties? Because you have, people use those words abandoned and like vacant synonymously. They're like interchangeably, but for the most part, abandoned, the owner left it. No one's loving on that house, right? So it's vacant typically, right? So you can probably Google vacant properties and you'll find a whole bunch of like software that can help you compile a list of vacant properties. And, a lot of times they're not really vacant, but whatever, right? So, it's bank owned properties sometimes, vacant houses, or houses that on public records show that the property is not the primary property for that owner. So you may, a house may come up like on a vacant house list if you have an absentee owner, right? So that's another phrase for that. You have an absentee owner. The person actually lives like in another state, right? Or they don't live in the same state as the property is located, or they just live in another city, they just live someplace else. So those come up as vacant and abandoned homes. And sometimes they're really not. But in the event that it actually is, right? The first thing you have to do is look up who owns it. You got to find out who owns that property and send them some kind of letter or postcard or call them. If you want to call them, you can use like white pages or some kind of skip tracing service to see if you can find their last known address to mail them something. If the property address and their mailing address is the same and you're looking right through the window and nobody's in there, right? So you want to use a skip trace service to actually find out where that owner moved to. Basically, they just didn't update their address with the county, right? And sometimes that's purposeful. They may be hiding or, something happened and they just didn't update their address. So you can use the skip trace service. The skip trace service that I use is called TLOXP. That's a really good one. There's many others that you can use out there. You can just Google skip tracing and, a whole bunch of companies is gonna come up, and you can research owners, names, contact information for abandoned properties. So some skip tracing services are better than others depending on like what data feed they're pulling from, but some information is better than no information. You know what I mean? Another like really economical way of skip tracing without really skip tracing or paying for a skip tracing service is to actually like mail the person a letter to the address that's already on file. Because sometimes if they have like a forwarding address, the post office will return it back to sender and it'll have the forwarding address already like on it, which I think is pretty dope. I've done that many times before. And then I just send them a new letter or postcard to the new address that came back on like the little yellow sticker. The US Postal Service, they put like a little yellow sticker on it. And sometimes it comes back and it says, no forwarding address available, but every now and then it's like 50-50, I think. So therefore, you got like a 47-cent stamp and you didn't have to pay for skip tracing. Works itself out. All right, so absolutely. What about tax lien homes? Oh, that's a good one. So let's be clear. All right, so tax liens and tax deeds are two separate things. They're not the same. So tax liens is when the real estate taxes for the year is delinquent, right? So any investor, any person, you can pay, the county will lovingly accept your money to pay for somebody else's real estate taxes that's delinquent. I'm just saying. They will take your money. So that's a tax lien, all right? They will lovingly take your money and say thank you so much, because we need to keep these street lights on. We need to, keep the stoplights going. We need to be paying all these police officers and firemen and keep these roads paved, keep these utilities on, and keep this big old building that we all have, these air-conditioned offices, well cooled, right? So tax liens, the county does an auction for the lien, right? So in the state of Florida, which is pretty cool. So some states, right, got 50 states. So some states are tax lien states where you can purchase or invest in the actual lien itself, right? And have a lien on somebody's house. So you don't own a house. All you did was basically advance that owner and paid their real estate taxes for them. But your expectation, obviously, your expectation is that you're going to have a return on your investment. So the state, or the county, I should say rather, will give you a return on your investment. There's a penalty involved, right? So the owner is going to have a penalty. There's interest that's going to accrue, and the tax lien, that's how people, you have tax lien investors. My nose is itching. You have tax lien investors that that's what they do. they just like that cash flow, right? So I bought a tax lien, and it was $1,000, right? The person had $1,000 that they owed in taxes and real estate taxes, and by the time it was paid, it was $1,200, right? So I got $200 in addition to being paid back the amount that I paid for their real estate taxes, right? So that's pretty much tax liens, right? So you don't get to own the property or anything like that. And I just wanted to make sure that people are really clear about each of those strategies, because tax deeds is when you're actually buying the property and you're issued a deed for that property, right? So in the state of Florida, excuse me, you have immediate right of possession with a tax deed. With a tax lien, you just have a lien on the property and you do not own it. But the benefit of owning a tax lien, like if you are going to be a tax lien investor, is that you can hold on to that lien certificate, because it's like a, it's a certificate. I'm just holding this up for a second. So you got a certificate. I got something. I got a piece of paper that says you owe me money, like an IOU. So after a couple of years and the owner doesn't pay their IOU, guess what? You want your money back, right? You like, I didn't just forfeit this $1,000 for nothing. I mean, hello. So depending on your state statutes and the timelines, after a certain period of time, the tax lien holder, right, the certificate holder, can go to the county and be like, hey, I want my money now. And they can file for a tax deed, right? They can file for a tax deed auction and say, hey, Mr. County, can you please help me get my money back? This owner did not pay. What gives? I want my money back. So in the state of Florida, a tax lien certificate holder, once that tax lien like matures and it comes to a certain day, you can go to the county and you can say, hey, Mr. County, I need you to hold an auction for me. All right. And I need you to auction this to the highest bidder because I want my money. I'm not leaving until I get it. So the county's like, all right, cool. I'll hold the auction for you. No sweat. All right. Just fill out this paperwork here, this application. We good. All right. I'm gonna hold an auction for you. All right. But I got a couple of steps that I got to do first. That's the county. Now I need to do this due diligence thing, and I need to do this notification thing, and I need to serve the owner and tell them that, hey, we're about to auction your house for the sum total of everything that you owe for these tax liens. All right. You got this amount of time to pay up all of this arrears in your real estate taxes that you did not pay. Okay. Or we're going to auction your house for the total amount that you owe. That's what happens. All right. So at the real estate tax deed auction, all right, so the successful bidder, whoever that is with the investor, if they are the successful bidder, they get the house. That's pretty much how that goes. That's pretty dope. So that's the reason why, some people prefer tax deeds because they get the house, and some people prefer tax liens because they have no care about the house. They just want to get a return on their investment by that penalty and the interest that accrues while they hold that certificate. It's kind of like, I would probably compare it to like a bank CD, right? A certificate of deposit where you have it on term for a specific amount of time, and you can, when it matures and when the person pays the money back, you get it back. So that's pretty much how that works here. So anyway, let's see. Let's go for the tax deed homes. Hey, you like me, girl. I see you, Kendi. I do love tax deeds. I am not a big tax lien investor. So, I mean, if that's the strategy that anybody wants to incorporate into their real estate, I could definitely refer you to someone who's killing it in the game in tax liens. All right, if that's what you like. I do, however, do tax deeds, and I've successfully won multiple different auctions and have bought properties that way, and then actually ended up doing like wholesaling them or lease optioning them or doing like owner financing on them and selling them like that way. So that's pretty amazing too. So I like buying properties at the tax deed auction. That's pretty cool. So Kendi, DM me, girl. We got to talk. Hey, Augie, how are you? So Augie Bilot's on the line. Shout out to Augie and the Pact family and Creating Wealth USA family. Shout out to them. Norda, Mishy Boo, hey Michelle, and Penny. I'm Penny Alexander, maybe. I'm not sure how to pronounce your name. Does anyone else have any additional questions you guys got? Oh, she said, I will. Okay, I look forward to it. I'll see you soon or talk to you soon. All right, so does anyone else have any additional questions out there? I would love to answer them for you. I know I gave a lot of information, so that's pretty much what I do. I want to make sure that you guys are well equipped to make a decision on what you would like to do and really be able to accomplish all of your goals and experience your dreams. You know, a lot of people give up on their dreams because, you know, they realize that they may not know all of the strategies to make their dreams come true. And whatever that looks like for them, whatever your life goals are. And real estate is a opportunity. It offers an opportunity. It's a vehicle that you can use to get to your true dreams, whatever you really, really want to do. So most people, you know, they don't start real estate investing because they just like real estate. You know, they start real estate investing because they really they have a passion to go and do something else, right? So like I mentioned to Kia earlier, before you begin any strategy in real estate, you must first know your why. Like, why do you want to do real estate investing? Like, why are you even interested in it in the first place? What do you think that real estate investing is going to give you and provide for you? I mean, I know you can make money, but you can make money doing a lot of things, right? So it doesn't have to be real estate. I mean, I'm not talking you out of the strategy or anything like that. I just want you to like answer some questions from within first, because you have a higher probability, like you have a higher probability of being successful when you know what your why is. Like, you won't give up, you know, when you have challenging moments or situations, or, you know, you're learning a new strategy and technique and you're trying it out and you're like, oh man, you know, I tried this worked, but this didn't work. And, you know, it'll quiet your frustration level, because you'll be so in tune with your why. You'll be motivated to continue no matter what. And you have to answer that question for you. What is it that's going to motivate you no matter what, right? That's what really makes a successful entrepreneur, is someone who understands why they became a business owner, why they wanted to be a business owner. So only you can answer those questions. So you must first know what that is first, right? You got to answer that first. All right. So let's see. Natasha, what are some of the best markets to shop to do a flip? Girl, every market. Every market. All right. So that's a really good one. That's a really great question, because people ask me that all the time, like, Jackie, what's the best markets? I'm like, every market. So here's the thing. Every market offers some opportunity. It offers opportunity no matter what. You must clearly know and understand that you must have an abundance mindset to get into any business. The first inkling of scarcity or lack is going to set you back. All right. So every market is a good market. What you really need to understand is what strategies works best in what market. And the only way to answer that question is to do your homework, right? To find out what properties are selling for. What are the days on the market for some properties, right? And days on the market is like, if properties are listed traditionally with a real estate agent, how long does it take a property to sell? Like, you need to know that. You also need to know like the average and like the medium sales price for properties. You also need to know what neighborhoods are in demand, right? What neighborhoods are not in demand. And also what neighborhoods are in demand for what type of buyers. That's a good one too, because you have different types of buyers as well. You have cash buyers that are investors. They're looking for certain criteria in certain neighborhoods that they can make profit in. You have retail buyers that are looking for more of properties that they could actually they're going to live in, right? They're trying to make that property their home. They're looking for something else. They're not looking for the same type of criteria that a cash buyer would be. Then you have landlord buyers, right? They are looking for like long-term rate of return on their investment. So they want to buy in a specific neighborhood as well too. So it requires you to do your research. So every neighborhood is a good flip in my opinion. Even the neighborhoods that people are like, oh, you know, that's like a war zone, right? That's kind of like a real estate term. You got war zone and you got like, you know, the hood or something like that. I know plenty investors that invest in neighborhoods that would be considered like low income neighborhoods. It's just that you have to have a specific strategy to be profitable in those neighborhoods. Fair enough. So, you know, say for example, you are like a Section 8 landlord and you have a whole bunch of properties that appeal to that demographic and that market. Well, you'd be like, oh, that's, you know, that's Section 8. But Section 8, those checks come in every month. They come in every single month, right? Are direct deposited with no questions. And if the Section 8 individual that's like qualified for those benefits, if they tear up the house or, you know, do something that violates the program's policy, like they are at risk of losing that benefit, you know? So they want to keep that benefit. They want to keep that free rent where somebody else is paying their rent, right? So even neighborhoods and situations like that, it just depends on what your strategy is. So I would be open to designing a business that really fits your needs and your lifestyle, and then also making sure that whatever strategy that you're going to do matches what the market is telling you after you complete your research. All right, so that's how I would do that. A best way to do that, if you're looking for just data and information online, I like to use like Trulia heat maps. Trulia is a great site where you can like type in any city, research any city, and you can search by like popularity, by zip code, which is pretty dope. I love that too, because then you can see which zip codes has like the highest sale. And then I think you can also put in a filter criteria of like time too. So what was sold in like the last 12 months or last 18 months or 24 months, like what zip codes are hot, which zip codes are having the highest sale, which zip codes have the highest like prices, which zip codes have the highest days on the market, like nothing's selling over there. So maybe you know what, some people would assume that if you have a high days on the market that you would stay away from that zip code. And I actually beg to differ. So here's the strategy that I would do. So if you have a high days on the market, like zip code where things are not selling, what do you think those owners are? Motivated. They are truly motivated because their property is not selling, right? So they have the property, they still have to maintain it, they're still paying for it, all of that stuff. So I would think that they're actually motivated. So the strategy that you would want to use for that one would probably be an option, right? Or like some kind of like subject to buying the house, taking over the mortgage, and providing a debt relief solution for that owner, right? They can't sell it any other way, or they're having trouble marketing and selling for some reason. So, I mean, as long as there's not like, you know, gang banging outside the front door, there is some strategy that could fit that that neighborhood's needs. So make sure you look at that too. Let's see. Natasha says, I agree. Good to know. Well, thank goodness. I'm so happy you agree. Not because you agree with me, but thank you so much for finding value in the information I'm sharing. Natasha says that she's obsessed with Trulia. Yeah, it's a great resource and it's free. So anyone who's not using Trulia to find out information about what neighborhoods are doing in your local neighborhood, as well as neighborhoods like, you know, far away, don't be afraid to consider doing your lease options or wholesaling strategy if either one of those fits your needs outside of your backyard, like outside of your neighborhood. Like it's just as I wouldn't say easy, but the same amount of steps are required to do it, whether it's local or someplace else. And then sometimes you can utilize those strategies in other neighborhoods, in other states, someplace else, because that market in that other state or that other neighborhood is a great fit for those strategies, right? Where maybe the strategy in your neighborhood is is not conducive to lease options or wholesaling because of, you know, maybe the days in the market are really, really low and things are selling really, really fast. So there's like a pretty high turnover rate for properties, and there's not like a lot of inventory. So you find that owners don't really need to sell for a minimum amount of cash because they could just pretty much sell for anybody, right? Or sell to anybody. All right, let's see what else is going on in this chat right here. Do I see anybody else? Nothing. You guys getting really quiet on me. You running out of questions? No one? Running out of questions? Awesome. Oh, okay. All right, here we go. Cool, cool, cool. So some of the strategies that I like to do is tax deeds, right? We spoke a lot about that. I explained that in Kindy's question. And then I do like options. That's pretty easy too, because options, you get to control the property without actually owning it. You can structure your deal that you can experience cash flow with the option without even owning it. So I think that's pretty cool. You know, a lot of people are concerned when they're jumping into real estate investing, like, where am I going to get the money from? And where am I going to, you know, I don't have good credit. You know, I don't have a lot of money. I don't have a lot of this. I have a lot of it. You know, they have all of these concerns, and rightfully so, because most people are only aware of the traditional ways of buying and selling real estate. So most people are unaware of all these creative strategies anyway. So when I share with them all these other options, they're like, what? This existed? I'm like, yeah, it does. So if you don't have a lot of money and you by any means, you don't need a lot of money to start real estate investing. I think you just need a right attitude and a willingness to learn. You can do lease options and wholesaling. And if there are any wholesalers that are on the line right now, if you're not offering options, you know, to your leads that are telling you no with your cash offer, then I think that you're like throwing your marketing dollars like out the window. You know, it's at minimum, you should learn lease option as well. And then you can actually employ your option or your wholesale strategy as a wholesale lease option. So it's kind of like the same mechanics of it, where you don't even have to stay in the deal, because wholesalers, they just like to stick and move, like a, you know, a really like cool boxer. They just like to stick and move. So you can actually assign your interest in your option agreement to the end tenant buyer, right? The new optionee. And then that's it. You're done. You're done there. Nothing else. And then the original optioner, right? And the optionee, they duke it out. They talk, and they are the ones that come up with like their arrangements and stuff. And you just get your option fee, your assignment from your option, and then you just exit stage left. Or exit stage right. I don't know. Whatever it is, like the opposite on here. So that's a really cool way. So, you know, you have all these leads that you're not taking advantage of, then I would highly recommend that you at minimum learn the lease option strategy. And then of course you can learn some other advanced strategies as well too, to give you more options and more tools in your toolkit. But at minimum, lease option, because you could be making a whole lot more money than just wholesaling by itself, right? You're just throwing away a whole bunch of leads. And it's pretty much like the same mechanics, different agreements, but the same concept, all right? It's for wholesaling lease options. All right, so let's see. Oh, Isha, how are you, beautiful? You just jumped on. I know, but you know what? You know, they archive these videos like forever. Everything is on the internet, so you'll get to rewatch it whenever you get a moment to catch up on everything that was discussed. But it's a Q&A, a live Q&A session for real estate lease options or options with a lease, right? I explained that. And then wholesaling, right? So that's assigning your principal interest in the contract to an end buyer, somebody else, and getting compensated for your assignment fee, right? So you're not the one that brings the money to the table or anything like that. The end buyer will do that, and then in turn also compensate you for finding a deal at a great price because you like negotiated it so well, right? So that's what I love the most about people who are like wholesalers full time. I love the fact that they are like just great negotiators. Like they're really, they're really good because they have to be really good. Like successful wholesalers that are have been wholesaling for a really long time are really, really good because they have to negotiate the best purchase price in order to satisfy their end clientele, which is their end buyers, normally another investor that has some kind of exit strategy that they plan on either like buying and fixing up the house and then selling it, putting it back on the market, or they plan on like buying it and like doing a little bit of fix up, not necessarily to get it like HGTV ready, but they're planning on fixing it up so that they can rent it out or do something like that. So wholesalers, you guys definitely fulfill a need, right? There's a gap there of service. So shout out to all the wholesalers out there. And wholesalers, if you're watching, like I said, I'm encouraging you to learn the lease option strategy as well to add to your business so that you could just make some more money and you don't have to like throw away as many leads or discard as many leads that you are discarding right now. Because I know that you guys got, quite a lot of leads that like you would consider like a fallout, that don't convert. So you guys need to be doing something with those. All right. Note to self. All right. So let's see here. Oh, exactly. All right, cool. Love you too. All right. So the questions are slowing down. I don't see any new ones here. So I want to take the time to thank everyone for jumping on this Q&A. I'm going to be doing more of them, so look forward for that. And if anyone wants to speak to me directly, personally, I am available for that too. We can set up a strategy session and we can just talk, all right? So my strategy sessions are absolutely free, no charge. I speak to a lot of professionals. Like it's not just for people that are just starting out in real estate. If you are just starting out in real estate and you haven't done a deal, that's okay, because everybody has to begin someplace. Like when I started, I didn't do a deal. And the first deal I did went horribly wrong, right? So I needed to speak to somebody who can educate me on how to do it without risking my personal credit and my personal cash and all the money I saved up for my family again, right? Because that was like my biggest concern. And I know it's a really big concern for a lot of you out there as well too. Like you want to take that leap, but you're like hesitant. You're like, I don't know if I want to put myself out there like that. So basically it's just like the strategy, making sure that you understand the different nuances and what things mean and like how to put things together. And I can answer those questions for you if you would like. So you can set up a strategy session. I'll also speak to realtors as well. I love talking to realtors because one of the strategies that they also are not using, which they could be using and becoming like niche experts at it and really dominating and crushing their market, is options. And most licensed real estate agents are underutilizing this strategy, and they could be making a lot more money, but they just A, don't know how, and or B, don't know it exists. Don't even know it exists. I know. Most times, like I'm on the phone with like a licensed agent. I'm like, all right, are you in front of your computer? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, all right, great. I'm logging to your MLS, right, database, and I'm going to walk you through some steps to look for some things. And I show them some stuff in their own MLS, right, and over the phone. And they're like, I didn't even know this was here. I didn't know this criteria even existed. And I'm like, yeah, it's been there this whole time. And I'm not even licensed. Like, I don't even have access to the MLS, and I know about it. So what about you? So we just laugh about it, and then I share with them some strategies that they can use to take care of their clients a little bit better, right? And they can market themselves in a different way, as well as how they can basically just make some more money, you know, just things that they just never really thought about. So if you're a licensed agent out there and you're interested in strategizing on how to make some more money in your market, and you're looking for some insight on how to do that, you can reach out to me too. And the way how you would find me is the Jackie Jackson, right? So you can go to thejackyjackson.com and you can schedule a strategy session there. And plus, I'll also put a link to my calendar in the chat there too. So anybody wants to schedule something with me, I look forward to it. I love talking to people. So hit me up. I'll call you. We'll talk. All right. So love you guys. Thank you so much for staying with me. And you guys have a great night until next time. All right. Talk to you guys soon. All right. Bye-bye.